Appy Hour. Our very timely topic today is mathematics and the PARCC assessments. Our agenda, we're going to welcome some special guests. We'll talk about types of questions, asking math questions, and completing math questions. And then we come back with our recurring feature, Bad Boys of Better Browsing and a Moment of Zen. Introduce our two special guests for today, Katie and Ryan. Katie, why don't you go first? Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Gwen. I'm a pre-K through 12 mathematics content specialist in Department of Curriculum and Instruction. I also have recently been working with PARCC to review items, so I'm excited to be able to talk to you guys today about the different types of items that you will see on the PARCC assessment. Ryan out and say hi to everybody. And a little bit later, I'll introduce him for you. Ryan Cassavant is in the Department of Instructional Technology. He's a instructional technology specialist. He was high school science, but...
Hi, my name is Ryan Cassavant. I'm a pre-K through 12th grade instructional technology specialist, and I support all grade levels and all subjects with PARCC subjects and any content area for Montgomery County.
And Ryan had 5 schools he visited for PARCC yesterday and 6 today, so he's got his PARCC on. Kids at the schools where Ryan and other folks visited today know is what kind of questions are they going to ask. So we're going to do a review of the type of items students can expect on the PBA and the end-of-year PARCC assessment. And math questions fall into 3 broad categories. Type questions are tasks assessing skills, and concepts, skills, and procedures. And Katie, tell us a little bit about what teachers can expect for this type of question.
Type 1 tasks can be seen on either the end-of-year assessment or they can be seen on the performance-based assessment or the PA that a lot of us are engaged in right now. Usually what these types of items are going to be worth either 1 or 2 points. Sometimes you can see them worth 4 points, but that doesn't start happening until the upper grades from grade 6 or beyond. What we happen with these is they're going to assess pretty much straightforward your content standards. So as you see right here on the screen, we've got Part A, you've got some drop downs that students would choose from. So students would be able to choose in this particular item, going to put in that first drop down would be a choice between 100, which is in the prompts to the problem, or 12.5, and so forth. Each of those drop downs is almost like its own multiple choice or multiple select type of item. So it's straightforward. We're selecting we're setting the content standards. This particular item that you're looking at would be worth 2 points. Part A would be worth 1 point. Part B would be worth 1 point. So you're going to see a whole lot of students needing to explain their answer or justify what it is that they're doing. And if they do, it's going to be part of a drop-down or a selected response type of item. So these are all machine scored. Sometimes, like if you look at Part B, sometimes students will be able to put in a solution, and as long as they have an equivalent either expression or number, depending on, again, the grade level or age of the child, going to be able to read that equivalent expression regardless of what they put in there, provided that they have a correct answer in some form.
They'll be seeing type 1 items on both the performance-based assessment and the end of year.
Yeah, one is both on performance-based that we're doing right now, and will also be on the end of year. The end of year is entirely type 1 type items. So what you see right now is what you're going to have all across the board end of year.
So you get a lot of bang for buck for these type 1 items. Let's jump over to type 2. Type 2 questions, expressing mathematical reasoning. And to me, it looks like it kind of takes the bar up. It's a little bit more complicated. Can you tell our folks about what you can expect from type 2 items?
These type 2 tasks are only on the performance-based assessment or on the PBA. And as what you said there, the mathematical reasoning piece is a big chunk of what's going on here. In these types of tasks, students are going to have to explain their reasoning. It's very strongly connected to the standards for mathematical practice, where students are expressing their reasoning or critiquing that of others or explaining the process, justifying their process. So here students are going to most likely be given a part A where it's very content related. We have a correct answer. In this case, we have another box where students are simply typing in their response for part A or what they think the solution is for part A. It could also be a drop down or another machine score type of item. But B is really the meat of this problem. This is where students must express their reasoning. So this is where students are going to have to explain the process they did to how they got that answer. They might have to justify why their answer is correct. They might be given a slightly different prompt in Part B, where they're going to have to critique the reasoning of another student. Again, really honing in on, if you look over there on the left-hand side of your screen in parentheses, this is MP3 and 6, those two math practices where students are going to have to really pull in their reasoning. So just a couple other things to think about there with the Type 2 mathematical reasoning tasks. Again, they're only on the performance-based assessments, and these can be words from 3 points, 4 or 4 points, depending on what it is that is being asked of the students to produce there.
And Type 3 is that the anticipation was building, I know, test assessing, modeling, applications.
Yeah.
So what do we need to know about these guys?
Tasks are very similar to Type 2 in that these also are only going to be on the performance-based assessment. But you can see, whereas Type 2 was all about students and their reasoning, Type 3 is really about students engaging in that modeling process. At the secondary level, we really refine what that modeling process is, but students engage in this modeling from grade 3 all the way on up. This is sort of the application problems where students are going to have to go from the beginning and work their way all the way through the cycle of solving a problem. So this is really important that students are able to find their variables or talk about what the problem means and how they're going really in detail, go into how they're going about solving their problem. So the modeling process, how you're modeling a real world situation with mathematics. Again, only on performance-based assessment, not on the end-of-year assessment. These type can be either points or 6 points. So note that students have the opportunity, depending on the question, to earn even more points on this than they did with the reasoning kinds of items.
Talking to parents and a little with you guys, I love parents are sometimes get that concern, like how do they answer this question? And I really love from talking with you all about that mathematical process, about figuring out all different pieces. We're very familiar with all the steps it takes to write an essay, but that thought process and that rotation through when it comes to math just sounds like a really good way to go. Would you or want to add on that?
I will. And as you notice, both in this problem and in the Type 2 tasks, down that second part of the last part, they have a big box where you can see where students can really work through talking about how they solve a solution or justify, and you'll notice that they have all kinds of math symbols to the right there that, based on the age of the student as they progress through the grades, that those options or those tools become more complex. But here's where students can really draw on the symbols that they know to be efficient about how they're communicating the mathematics.
What are they going to ask? We talked about Type 1 questions, which you'll see both at the PBA going on right now and at the end of the year, and Type 2, which you'll only see now in the PBA. Any questions, you can go ahead and throw them in the chat. If not, give me a smiley face or an emoticon to let me know you're good and ready to move on. Next segment. So this is a key one. We need to be able to ask our students mathematical type questions. This advice is going to be the first step in this agenda item is we're going to go to practice questions, and then we're going to touch on some add-ons that aren't just helpful for PARCC prep, but it's helpful when you're a math teacher. So we're going to start with those practice questions. Ryan Cassavant is going to jump on board with us. I'm going to take you all to the PARCC sample items web page right here. And then, Ryan, I'm going to assign you so that you can be able to annotate and move on my screen and a little bit more about the.
Great. Thank you, Carrie. So we are on the parcc.pearson.com website. And when you come to this website, there's a large menu bar at the top in blue. And you navigate simply to the test preparation menus. Under that are your sample items, your tutorials, and your practice tests. Today we'll go to the sample items. And when we scroll down, we get grade 5 item sets, both EA and math items, as well as practice with the equation editor, which can be very helpful for your students. Grades 6 through 8, again, both ELA and math, as well as the equation editors. And then moving to the high school items, you get all of the different high school ELA and math item sets. The rubrics off to the side that you see are noting there are ELA rubrics for scoring. So this is a math and we don't need to worry about those rubrics right now. For the math in the high school item sets, there is a TI graphing calculator software that you can download since the students will be using those TI emulators in the test. So both in an Apple OS and a Microsoft Windows version of those. So these are very helpful because they are the actual test items that students will see and become familiar with, as well as practice with the tools they need to use to be successful.
Just Ryan, a little bit about those questions. Do you want me to go into 3 to 5, 6 to 8, or high school math item set?
To 6 to 8.
200, Alec, right?
It's through the different sections. It looks exactly like PARCC does. And here's our Kelvin ran a 100-meter race. Where's the type 1 question? You can see the drop downs and different things there for part A. And up top are an assortment of tools that they will want to use. You can see the 1/8-inch ruler that's being highlighted, and they can move that around the screen and turn it. The protractor for measuring angles. Can you have the basic calculator and the scientific calculator? And it's important that students know how to use these because they will use them on the test and they're built right into the interface.
Do these shift the protractor and 8-inch ruler, or are they available on all questions?
They are available at the top for each section test, but the calculators are not. They'll shift on the calculator versus calculator sections.
This is Katie. What's interesting to add is that calculator changes as you move through the grades. So right now, because we're in grades 6 through 8, the calculator only shows the functionality that students are allowed to use in grades 6 and 7, since we're looking at grade 6. But when you get into upper grades, especially in high school, really that's going to be more like the TI 84 emulator that Ryan was showing us at the beginning.
And while I have you and Ryan both here, here's a question that actually does the technology enhanced bit that we see so much on ELA of dragging and dropping. Items like this, only available on the PBA or both the BA and EYA?
So that drag and drop piece that you were just doing there in Part A, that's actually a type 1. So that one can be both on the PBA or it can be on the end of year, the EOY. The Part B that you're looking at down there at the bottom, that is only going to be on the PBA.
So they would have the drag and drop part, but they wouldn't have to go down and tell the mathematical story here on the end of year assessment.
If you look at Part B, what it's asking them to do, it's asking them to explain why they do not, and I can't read the rest of it, but that's linking to that reasoning. So that's actually going to be a type 2 question or task because it's asking them to really link to what they know about reasoning and that standard for mathematical practice.
This is Lisa. I have a couple of questions. I haven't seen math in middle school yet, but I did see it in elementary yesterday. Are those options at the top? Are they always at the top or are they sometimes on the side?
That's depending on how much the type 2 and type 3 question is pertaining. Sometimes you'll see a prompt over on the left-hand side and all of the questions for students on the right-hand side. Okay. I think that's something that PARCC is still sort of determining what's going to be the best. We might see that evolve over the next couple of years.
So we should let our kids know, because little third graders had trouble with that. They practiced with it in one place, and they didn't see it there. They didn't really know what to do. Okay, and my next question is laying an answer. Like today, they had a math problem that involved money. They're able to type the dollar symbol.
So that's a really good question. So the reason they weren't able to type the $ symbol is because of the type of item it is. That place where you type in your answer will only accept numbers in the situation you're talking about. Every once in a while, it'll accept variables. But when that's a case, the units are in the problem in and of itself. So, for instance, if you look at the problem that we're looking at right now, it says how many more minutes does Patricia need to read this week? So the units are in the problem itself, and if you're next to the box, the units are next to the box. Because they want that to be a problem for students.
See, this is excellent, and the teachers need to hear this. We need to get this out to the teachers because they, they can't put the $ there, but they didn't know that it was okay.
And Randy with us from testing today, as he's going to try and make it. Of course, today was a very busy day. But in many cases, he said, if it's a reminder, I had some students who were typing the wrong place, and they were allowed to be reminded as a whole. The whole class could be reminded where to write. So I think if you ran into this problem, and we'll loop back and make sure to have an addendum with this, if you ran into that problem and you told the whole class, it's okay to just type the number. Right. Reminder, I think we could ease some fears as we go through.
You just want to be careful. You want to be careful with that on the PBA because in this part where students are explaining their response or justifying how they got their answer or why their answer is correct, they are going to need to include those units. So you want to be careful there with the difference between the type 2 and then the type 2 and the type 1 and the type 2 and 3 tasks.
When on the math tests, when students are taking it, that they may restrict the number of characters that can be placed into those boxes. So a student might get a large number as their answer and try to type it in, and it won't accept it. So you can see here it has a 5 limit. So that's another thing to speak to students about, is that they may end up come to a point where their number can't physically be punched into that box.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
And having students asking the questions using the PARCC sample assessments is a good way to get kids ready and prepared. So when they run into a problem where they can't type the $ or the minutes are too long, they'll be aware and have practiced with the items on top as well as entering different types of questions. Let's go back over. Let's talk about doc add-ons and form add-ons. And I'll ask, we have a couple folks out in the audience, I'll ask anybody out there who's used doc add-ons. If you have, give me a yes or a smiley face or one of those good pieces. Go ahead and throw that in the chat. Doc is really one of those first signal things that we that's used. Is pretty much just like Microsoft Word. If you haven't used it, if you want to continue the conversation as we move, you can roll your cursor up to the very top of the screen, and you'll see a menu bar that jumps down at you. There's a little icon that says chat. You can click on it and what you're saying, and be able to ask questions as you have them. The docs, and we're going to highlight 3 different add-ons. The first is GMath, the second is Calculator, and the third is Translate. As you can actually see the results of it, it puts in, and everybody who's worked with Word and written math questions knows that that is a useful skill to be able to do that. In particular, not only does it show something like 2 + 7 =, it turns it into a little almost image type option, so it can't be changed by the student. So they know what the question is, and they could answer what the answer to that question is on the page. You get to the add-on, just a little bit here. You get to GMath by going to add-ons. If you don't see GMath, just come down to get add-ons and search for it. It's really easy to find. Click Math, and we're going to do create mathematical expressions. So you can see that create graph is here, as well as create a statistical display. Math itself here on the side. You type in what you want the math equation to be, like 2 equals. And it gives you a little preview down here, and insert it. It's easy. It creates a 2 plus 2 for you. You drag and drop it and make it question number 2. 1.5 here. No, just number 1. But it's also something I find really cool. A button that looks like a microphone. 3, 5 equals. And it takes the speech to math, not speech to text, speech to math, and it will generate and put it down here. And it just appended it to my formula. Then once again, I press insert. Little number in right there for me, helping me make my worksheet on the fly. It also gets more complicated. Those are pretty easy with different types of formulas, like this nice little fractions guy right here. I'm going to clear it out for a second. I'm going to go down and click on fractions, A and B. Since we're, math folks here, you'll get that those are variables of which I can overwrite to get the preview that I want. Make it larger and smaller, how it's inserted on your page, so it's even bigger. I can.
So just so you know how sensitive that is, that box, I have mine open, and it did right into the box everything you said. So be careful, you're in a quiet space when you do that.
This is true, but hey, here's something cool. Although our classrooms, when everyone's getting excited and moving, aren't always quiet places, here's something to think about as well. If students have written their answers or have done their math and want to show it to you mathematically, they too can go and use GMath, and they can read their finished equations right up here, like I am right now, sharing information. Of course, the math information, and into the box with the text for you. So it's very sensitive. It's not as good with regular text, but it's really good with mathematical equations. This is called GMath. And you can find it from add-ons, get add-ons, and then you open it to use it right here from GMath. On GMath, if you don't have any, go ahead and give me a smiley face in the chat box. To our next one, calculator. This on calculator. Fancy, but it's a good start. It pretty much puts a little calculator on the side of a screen. So if students are coming to answer your 2 plus 2, so now in the math test, there are both calculator and non-calculator equations. So I'm sure in your classroom, you probably have protocols on when they use a calculator and when they don't. But if they are open and allowed to do so, this little calculator is a nice little freebie that they can stick right on the worksheet that you sent out to them. Is translate. Let me come on and show you something I think is particularly handy. I'll close out calculator. A little a screenshot for you. And just a smidge. Oops, not make anybody sick there. Let me just pull these up. Is a little live look in on what kindergarten homework looks like at Forest Knolls Elementary School. Anna is asked to practice counting from 1 to 10. Keep going if you can. But one of the things I love about it, because this is homework, is that the Spanish translation of the work is right here on the page. That's great because this is going home for parents to work with their students. And one of the things I've noticed about math in particular is the fairly lengthy in text. So it makes it a perfect opportunity for you to use a Spanish translator as part of your directions. So if directions are answer each question below, I can highlight that text, go add-ons, and translate English to Spanish, and let's translate if I want. But see, what it did right there is it translated. I'm going to go back and copy here. It copied the directions. And since they're such small chunks of text, the translation actually tends to work pretty darn well. Show your work. I bet you have said that if you're a math teacher out there, you can put a number. How many times have you written show your work? Well, you get used to those Spanish translations. You stick them in here. And now your directions become friendly for students when they go home, if they're translating, if they're new. I know it was always the case that a lot of our immigrant students were really, and Spanish speakers were good at math because math didn't take all the English barriers, right? So let's take away one more barrier and make sure they understand what's being asked. And believe me, on translation, I went and found this translation from the French immersion schools. I click French to English and press English. For me. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight my directions. To get into English, and it's giving me French. One more time. I'm going to close. Maybe it gets stuck. Let me go to my add-on, go to Translate. Highlight and auto-detect. Let's let it auto-detect for a second. Oops, Spanish, translate. Face value and mental math to divide. So that's a couple buttons there. But you know what? If I were hanging out in Paris right now and there'd be less snow coming, right? As a parent or as the student could go and get the translation and get a good sense of what my homework is supposed to be, use what I know about place value and basic operations. Is the grammar perfect? No. But can I do my homework? Absolutely.
Making instruction available to everyone, so it's a great differentiation tool. Use this document in the Spanish version and to send it to the students that need that version.
Again, one less barrier and one more scored in math is what we want.
Good job.
So those are our 3 docs add-ons, GMath, Calculator, and Translate. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. If you don't, I'm going to pop over and go to Forms. From Mock, I can go New, Forms. And let me know, if you've never done a Google form before, let me know in the chat. They're one of personal favorites. My form. Google Docs, there's an add-on for forms. Create my mathematical expressions or create a graph. It's a question title, how text. Wouldn't it be cool if my help text was automatically some translation in Spanish? That would be really cool. I'm just going to write Spanish, so I'm not sure how to translate. That one, I have my functions, my graphing calculator, and insert. How it inserts in forms is what it's going to do. It's going to insert both it's going to insert the graph and the question. And what it's doing, for those of you guys who said you've used forms before, because everyone kind of told me you did, is it's actually, I'm going to make my screen smaller so you can see it straight up, it's actually put here as an image. It creates an image and sticks it in the form. Then it asks the question below. So if you're looking to ask questions, have kids answer them, you want to do some complex graphing, do it for you. It not only does graphs and standard, statistical displays, it will also do those math expressions for you. So just like in math, you can go in and do your math here. Well, answer the question, math, right? Show your work. In Spanish, I'll put my Spanish down here and show your work. Fill out my little number here. I press insert, and it's going to start thinking. It generates the new question for me. And since this question is, I think, part of those type 2s, type 3s, I might want to make it a paragraph text because I don't want to show me a lot of work and say done. And
I like the fact that you're able to make that larger box down the bottom so that students could practice sort of looking at that type 2 or type 3 question where students are going to have to show their work or explain how they got their answer or justify why their answer is correct in relationship to that graph that you put in or that question that you asked, just those nicer forms.
And off the presses, students, if they need more room, because man, are they writing, can now make the Google Forms box even larger. So if we're having our students practice writing and really seriously writing, they can go ahead and make the box bigger, which makes it easier to write and read their work.
PARCC translate as an add-on in Form. Am I missing it?
It isn't an add-on in Forms. What I do is I typically take my text, I paste it into Docs, I translate it, and then I paste it in the help text area.
Okay.
But I am super hoping that someone will come out with one soon that just takes all your text in your question and translates it and kicks it in the box below. I think that would be awesome. So any budding programmers out there, oh, that's what I want. As soon as that becomes available, we'll bring it to you here on Appy Hour. Solutions. Let's talk about completing the questions. So that's kind of one of those things that actually was a big misconception when I visited the PARCC Parent Nights, that people thought kids were not going to be able to do work with pencils and paper in front of them on PARCC. And so we're going to clear that up right here. They absolutely have paper and pencils in front of them. But that hurdle of getting students to show their work, which we believe looks like we're saying twice to math folks out there, is a hurdle. So Ryan's going to pop on and talk a little bit about 2 different strategies for showing your work, starting with using the camera built in on the Chromebook. Ryan?
Thanks for reviewing all of those great tools, both in Docs and in Forms. All of those tools help our students overcome barriers to success, both in the classroom and on the PARCC assessment, so that they can really show what they know and have a chance to be familiar and comfortable in that environment. And that's why the technology is so powerful in this regard for mathematics. So today we're going to show 2 other features here. Using a Chromebook, Carrie has nicely placed an image here. When students go into the Chromebook app launcher in the bottom left corner, there's a camera tool where they are allowed to click on that, of course, and launch the camera. And what they can do is pictures of their work and save it to their Google Drive and then share it out with their teacher. So one way they can show the answer to any question on a given worksheet, or if they were doing group work and coming up with multiple ways to solve a problem, they could do that too. The second way, Carrie has jumped to this next screen, is to actually do it straight into Docs. So as a teacher, you could share a worksheet where they would need to click on number 1 and insert option. Carrie, do you mind putting your mouse over the insert option on the bar of Docs up there?
1 second, but this one isn't live. Why don't we mention the quick picture and then I'll take you live? How does that sound?
Okay, that's perfect. So quick picture, when you grab the camera tool, it's going to snag it and just throw it right into your own Docs. This one that we're seeing here on the insert image, this one's from the box itself. So you will have to click that green allow button in the Adobe Flash Player settings. And once you do that, when you hit close, a new bar will pop up at the top, and it will say allow with a gray button as well, so that the Chromebook can access that camera tool. At that time, the view will become live and the student will be able to take a picture of whatever is in front of their Chromebook camera. Most likely it'll be their face initially, but they'll be able to hold up a picture of their work and on question 1 on the worksheet which they have in front of them. So Carrie is working through this.
And here we are. I just brought you to Docs, and this is where you were talking about adding a picture they've taken. You insert image.
Snapshot. And here it will be Adobe Player Settings box. You'll choose Allow, Close, and then Allow will come up top.
I'm going to do it from Upload, which is just as easy as choosing an image. From here, it looks just like you would attach a document on an email, and you can insert the image.
From a Chromebook, it'll go to their drive, and they can actually search by the pictures. So had they used their camera previously from the app launcher, it will go and grab those pictures, and students can simply go from their Google Drive instead of taking a live snapshot.
Advice about how to have them take pictures. I took one of two homework assignments for Miss Anna Booth here, but I had advice on how they should take those pictures to keep yourself sane as a teacher.
They should focus in on just the actual question when place that in there so that that's what the camera view sees, and then move down the worksheet so that it's easy for you as a teacher to actually comment field in Docs or right within the doc itself on their answer to give good feedback that helps them.
A copy of just one picture, and if Ryan was mentioning you can do comments and say, you really have this, or yay.
The goal of a Chromebook and more features to help any student with their choice of how they want to choose their representation for DL and include that easily into your classroom.
And you drop these images into a Google slideshow, like for students, and each of them could explain the process, you know, how they reached their conclusion, and have a big collaboration going on the picture that they took. It's awesome. They could do a screencast, explain what the thought process was.
Great. It's just as easy to get to Slides, which is the PowerPoint equivalent in Google Docs, by simply going File, New, picking Slides, and I can drop my picture in. How cool would it be if all the kids drop in their different work and then have a conversation around it? Having them take pictures of the work to show their work is one way they can actually answer the questions. And Ryan, you want to talk them through another idea you have out there?
We can simply take this with the 4, 5 equals 9, which is like a sticky note, and move through where they can take a picture of wherever their work is, do this. Or you can use, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, is this the whiteboard example that we were discussing?
Well, there's a couple, but I think one of the pieces that you had mentioned to me is that kids are used to right now writing by hand their math. So have them do it by paper and then transfer it to a computer. So it's kind of that bridge step to getting to answering the questions type 2 and 3 Katie was talking about. Have them work it out on paper where they're comfortable. And once they've worked it out, then go and transfer it into the computer, because that gives them kind of a bridge. None of our students are proficient at thinking by typing in those little boxes with their math yet. So having them know the freedom of writing it by hand and then typing it into those boxes is a nice transition step as we get them ready for PARCC, but also when they answer questions just in our own class.
Carrie gave you 2 wonderful tools to do that, the editor and the text to math, or the speech to math as well. Because at PARCC, though they have that paper and pencil in front of them, they're still going to have to enter it into that field to receive credit for their work.
And I will pull up a whiteboard here, as you were talking about, that students can use any of the drawing tools to write their answers. But I think you're mentioning that in some cases, if they haven't done it by hand on paper first, this can be a really slow process. Is that true?
Yeah, they're not using a regular mouse or a touch screen device. It becomes even more difficult because the trackpad sometimes is a barrier for them to overcome.
I think as we move forward with this, I think we're going to find more and more tools that make it easier to do the math on the screen. They too will grow and develop as we get more and more fluent in these types of math. Are there about these strategies that we have for having students answer their questions? We've touched on 3 different ideas. 1 is using a camera to document it. 2, having the kids write the work before they go to the computer to transfer it. And while it's not a huge recommendation, students can use a whiteboard to show their work. Jump to our recurring features, the bad boys of better browsing. And with that, I have my colleague Lynn is going to jump on, and she's going to take us through some of these bad boys of browsing and through the end of the presentation. Lynn?
Hello. Hi, everybody. So yeah, the bad boys of browsing. Today we're going to talk Google browsing and how another great way that you can just use your Google search or your Omnibox to get information, mathematically speaking, for students. I'm going to share my screen with you or my application as soon as Carrie gives me some power here.
You are presenter. Go.
All right, give me just a second. I'm going to share my Google Chrome page with you here. All right, page, if you just go to google.com, your regular Google browsing, you can use it as a calculator just by typing into the box itself. So I have a couple examples for you. One, let's just say that you have a sweater that you'd like to buy, and it's, wait for it, it's $44.99, okay? And it's going to be on sale 25%. So you're going to be losing 25, you get 25% off. All you have to do is type the information in, hit enter, and there you have it. So it's $33.74. However, taxes that we need to add to this. Take our answer. You can just copy it, or you can use this little answer feature down here. And you can just keep adding to the question. So now we want to add, come back. We want to add the 6% sales tax. We can just start again with our 6% sales tax and add that right to it, 6%. And we will exactly what our bill is going to be when we leave that store. It will be $35.76. So you're going to decide if that's how much you're willing to pay for that item or not. So look at the screen, you can see all the functions that are available in the actual presentation itself that Carrie had for us, that you can use parentheses, you have a percent, all of your regular features here. These are more high school related. You can use these for higher level math, and then you just have your numbers. Again, use your keyboard or use the actual function on the device itself. One more for you. This is Carrie's favorite thing to do. Let's say you are a 9-year at a master's plus 60 teacher, and you're currently making $73,467. That could be you, I'm not sure. If you want to go from being a classroom teacher to being a 2-month employee, let's say you want to head up to central office, you are going to be multiplying your salary by 17.5%. That means you're going to be now earning $86,323.
I love how you do this, because when I do it, I involve all the parentheses and the adding and the pieces, and that's really cool that there's a lot of different ways you can do it within here. That's awesome.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So if you need students to show each step, you can definitely have them do it step by step with parentheses, or you can just use it as it is, Questions about this function? It's an awesome function Google offers us. Don't have to spend any money for or have a device sitting next to us. Everybody good? The page. Can I see the regular presentation again now? Yes. So we have a moment of Zen now. Today, our focus is going to be how you can get more support through Google, and it would include us as ITS specialist people who can help you. And the first thing you can do is when you're in your Drive, you can just do a search, and this will search your Drive or your incoming, which is now back to being shared with me or shared with you, if you heard that news last now. So if you just search in your Drive locally, you're going to get what's in your Drive. If you search through your incoming, you're going to get what people have sent to you. So if you're missing something, it's a great way to find stuff. But let's say you want some information. Let's say you forgot how to link your email to your Gmail, your Outlook to your Gmail, or something that you want to learn how to do before. You can actually make it an advanced search. If you've not heard of this feature before, just use this really unobvious drop-down item, and you're going to select the search mcps.net, which means any item that anybody in MCPS has developed for support will be available to you. You can find it. And you can check by file type. So if you know it's a document format, you can check it by document format only, or if you know it is a slideshow presentation, for example. And if you know you didn't make it, you can make that selection as well. So you have some options to really get your search down to what you know you're looking for. So that's a feature. The next, who hasn't done this before, you can do a Google search. We've been doing Google searches for PARCC error codes today. So you definitely use a Google search. People have screencasts, people have made videos that they've posted on YouTube. You find documents, you can find links to other school systems, you can find tons of stuff by doing a regular Google search for whatever it is you need to learn how to do. And we do what Carrie calls the shameless plug. We have a great site for you, our Appy Hour site. I believe Carrie has put it in the chat box for you as a link, which you can click on and access. We have a ton of information on the Appy Hour site. We keep all of our recorded Appy Hours. This Appy Hour will be recorded and posted on this Appy Hour site. So you may be watching it from there. You have the MCPS Chrome Store app list, and you have the forum link that you can suggest a new app. If you host a happy hour, we would love to have you host an happy hour. Just get in touch with one of us, and we will be happy to set that for you. You pick the topic, we the happy hour. And remember, you get an hour credit for joining us for an happy hour. Can I add to that?
No.
Awesome. Lastly, of course, you have us, your instructional technology specialists, who are here to help you and support you. So feel free to contact those individuals. Those would be the people who come to your school, do the orientations for the Google Apps for Education, are probably in your schools right now doing PARCC support, and so on. So you can definitely contact those people via email. And you, at this point, you have half of our cell phone also.
And of course, we also have guests today from the Department of Instruction and Curriculum, and I know for math stuff, they are open arms as well. So yeah, we'll give a shameless plug for them as well.
Definitely. We've had great support and great working relationship with Katie and her team over in math. So yeah, it's awesome. Anybody who wants to work with us, we are happy to work with you if it benefits you, your department, your school, and your growth in Google.
Thanks, guys. It's been great working with you too.
I have you on right now, Katie. We'd like to ask for any parting shots. Do you have any last thoughts that you can send people away with?
I think the parting thought would be that we're learning more about how we're assessing the Common Core standards every day, and that if teachers are just teaching really well to those standards and using the curriculum, that PARCC is going to follow that, and we're going to be successful with PARCC. So if we concentrate on those things, everything else is going to fall into line.
Ryan, do you have any parting shots out there as well?
The math doing it with Google Apps is always a difficult task in the classroom because when you try to think about doing math the old way, it doesn't always work. But as you've seen today, there are tons of tools, translation tools, equation tools, graphs you can place into forms, taking just a simple snapshot of the worksheet that just easily into your classroom, and students don't need to learn anything new to do this, and it gives them just terrific practice engagement tools for them. So don't be afraid to do that math in your classroom. Don't put the Chromebooks away. They work, and they work really well, and your kids will learn that content that many times is so difficult for them to learn.
We're going to thank everybody for coming. I think what may seem like a daunting task at first can actually lead to a real change of instruction. And there's so many cool tools out there that we can use when using these devices that really opens up a whole new world of learning. We want to thank everybody for coming today. Please, no matter whether you're watching this on recording, so shout out to the recording people, or you're live with us today, please take our follow-up. If you click on the link, I'll throw it in the chat one more time. It bears out there. If you click and fill out and tell us you were here, whether you do it by recording or if you do it live, we'll give you credit in PDO. So we may not be able to give candy out through the computer yet, but we can give out PDO credit. So thanks everybody for coming today. And if you do something awesome, share it with us. We're on Twitter, and you can use the hashtag #GasAppHour to tell us cool stuff you did, because we're always looking for guest presenters and experts out there in the field. And who knows, maybe you'll be our next special guest when it comes to Happy Hour time. So thanks, everybody, and have a good day.